This is Jamie Dyer welcoming you to another edition of the Quo-Cast. And I'm joined by Dan, who attended the 2023 McVention at Glasgow, seemingly the last one. Just as a general thing, before we dive a little bit deeper, what was your kind of thoughts on the weekend?
It was absolutely awesome. It was so well put together. Jay Fitzpatrick, it was like a Herculean task. No pun intended necessarily with one of the bands there, but he, boy, must have spent hours and hours on it, and it was just so well stitched together. Everything about it just hung brilliantly. From the set lists of the bands, he had clearly sort of had a hand in and vetted. There was so much variety that we got there with the bands. He also played with most of them in various roles, and we also got some bands that I'd never seen before but had been really waiting to for some time. So it was just a very, very enjoyable weekend. The venue was great. The staff there, it was just very well coordinated and worked very well.
Well, I'm really sad to have missed it. I couldn't make it this time, but they say it's the last one. I mean, Jay did put a lot of work into this. I know this even from, behind the scenes, hundreds of miles away. It was clear to see that there was so much work put into this weekend.
I really hope it isn't the last one. It was the first one that I went to up there, but it wasn't because it was the last one. I just saw the lineup and thought, oh, this is too good to miss, really. So sorry you couldn't make it, but there are about 1,000 or so fans who had a very, very enjoyable weekend.
And so I gather. So who opened the event? Was that Heavy Traffic?
No, they headlined that day.
Yeah.
Quo-No UK,
right.
Who kicked it all off, and they were at the last Minehead event. And that very enjoyable set from them. As I say, all these sets, we got such a variety. I can give you a run through if you want. I did note them down.
Okay.
They open with Oh Baby. Then Is There a Better Way? Railroad, Don't Think It Matters. And then something I wasn't expecting, Beginning of the End. Mad About the Boy. Brilliant song live. And then this was a real surprise. I don't think I'd ever heard it performed live by anyone before, but they did You Were Just What I Was Looking For Today, which I think was on Spare Parts.
Yeah.
Blue Eyed Lady, High Flyer. Now, that live was really, really good. I don't think I'd heard that one before. And then the drummer did a full rendition of the live album drum solo, and I thought it was note perfect. And then they ended on Someone's Learning,
which of course was a highlight from their Minehead set.
Yes, that one's on the DVD, I think.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well, as you've noted on your notes, that they had a guest guitarist, which was Adam Beer, I believe, for Blue Eyed Lady.
Well, I haven't heard of Andy before. Is he in another tribute?
I don't think so. I think he's just kind of around. There's a number of musicians, aren't there, that are just kind of around, not necessarily in any bands, myself included.
Yeah, I put myself in that bag as well.
Yeah.
And then it was Status No, a band I hadn't seen before. That I'm not sure where they're from. Don't really know the background from them. But again, another diverse set from them. Opening with Mean Girl, going into Paper Plane. They did the Oriental. And then they purposely mentioned they were really looking for some deep cuts as a request from Jay. And they actually played Lonesome Road from Rick's Over and Out album.
Yeah.
They did Dear John, Spinning Wheel Blues, Liberty Lane, A Reason for Living, Cut Me Some Slack. Then they did No Return, which was the second half of the double A side from Lockdown from JCQ.
Yeah.
Then they did Down the Dust Pipe and the Anniversary Waltz, and finished with Big Fat Mama. So that was one of the most diverse sets I think I've ever seen any Quo tribute or style band attempt, really.
Well, I think it's very unusual for a band to go into solo careers, especially, JCQ.
Yeah. And it was great. I mean, it was the perfect audience for it. Everyone was up for that and hearing something a bit different. I mean, if everyone had come on doing Caroline or whatever you want, or one of the biggies, it would have been a bit dull by the end of it. But to hear stuff tackled like that, it was brilliant.
I can well imagine, because that's what those events are about, hearing those deep cuts. And you'll get there eventually, I think, when we come to talk about the other bands. But I don't think Rocking All Over the World was played all weekend, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't, which I didn't exactly mind. I've heard it a few times by now.
Yeah.
The whole weekend was compared by Jackie Linton, which was great. I mean, his sense of humour, it tickles most, to be honest. And he sort of introduced pretty much every band in the style of the Quo's live album.
Well, I mean, given where the event was taking place, I mean, it fits perfectly, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yes. So that was the first day, which then headliners were Heavy Traffic, which played then a couple of times at Minehead, opening and closing that event. And I said then that over the course of that weekend, I thought they'd really matured as a band, because that second set that they did closing the event was totally unplanned. It was, I'd say, unrehearsed, in that they weren't anticipating they would be doing that.
Yeah.
But they are really, really polished outfit, and their set, that they've always gone for that sort of mid-noughties kind of, almost using the Just Doing It set as a bit of a template. So they open with Caroline, Something About You Baby I Like, Break the Rules. Then they tackle Thinking of You, which went down brilliantly. But then a real surprise, again, one I just never thought I'd hear live. They performed Perfect Remedy, and it went down an absolute storm. There was no one sort of groaning or moaning about it. It was just a good live rocking song that everyone there enjoyed. They then did Bella Vista Man, The Party Ain't Over Yet, Hold You Back, the Mystery Medley, ending with Big Fat Mama, Dirty Water, Slow Train. Then they did Cadillac Ranch, so an obscure number there. They did Down Down. That had a snippet of Come Rock With Me rocking on in it, I'm sure. That actually here on my notes, they did do Whatever You Want and Rock You All Over the World, so that was the only sort of airing for those, I think. Then Burning, Junius Wailing, then Burning Bridges, Rock and Roll Music, Bye Bye Johnny, and John Coghlan joined them playing tambourine at the end there.
Wow. I mean, like you say, an eclectic list, and Perfect Remedy is one that the band actually performed themselves at some point. So it's certainly not as obscure as it could be.
Yes. Yeah, I've obviously heard that version, but it was just such a out of the bag kind of, I was not expecting that kind of moment. Just a very pleasant surprise.
That's true. I know from having seen Heavy Traffic twice, as you say, at Minehead, I see that One Man Band is missing from this particular set list, and I do wonder whether that was because that song in particular is quite hard to sing.
Quite possibly, or just filling in the other obscure ones for them. I don't think I'd seen them do Slow Train before, but definitely not Cadillac Ranch.
No, that one That one is fairly... I don't think I've ever heard of any Quo band tackling that one.
No. So that rounded off the first day, and talking, because there was a really good atmosphere in between the bands. There's some good music going on then, and there are also some good sort of messages and anecdotes put up, little quips from Quo over the years, little messages like "Hello, all right," and "Blonde curly and not unlike one of the Marx brothers" was one of the, all that sort of stuff, and just to keep the thing going. But on talking with a number of people throughout that I've met at these events over the years, I did find out through one of them where the Glasgow Apollo actually was. And I thought, well, it'd been about 20 years since I was in Glasgow, and I didn't have a look then. But I thought, you know what, if I've got some spare time on the Saturday morning, I'll go and have a look. And found out it was about 5 minutes walk from my hotel.
Wow.
So unfortunately, it's a rather ugly cinema now, very modern. With my ears ringing from the night before, it was pretty cool to sort of wander around there and think, God, this might be an echo of the live album. And then, because I had time to kill, I actually looked up, because I remembered that Rick got his famous white Telecaster from Glasgow, and managed to track down the place. It's no longer a music store, unfortunately. It closed down about 20 years ago, but it's literally within 2 minutes walk of the Glasgow Apollo, and it was a really cool sort of thing to sort of piece together, like Quo in Glasgow.
Yes, I remember seeing the pictures that you posted, and the history that was within reach of you must have been incredible, especially after having been, at the event. So what happened the next day?
Well, first up was Hercules, who I know you're a fan of this band, and I've been for years, but I'd never had the opportunity to see them. They are one of those bands that write in the Quo style. They didn't actually play any Quo covers at all during their set. So it's all their own material, and it is played so well on the albums as well as live, that they're just a very decent rock boogie kind of band to go and see. They pulled off something brilliant there, that it was, yes, it's kind of the audience that would appreciate that music anyway, but I'm sure probably over 50% wouldn't have heard the material before. No. And by the end of it, everyone was thoroughly enjoying it, and the atmosphere was great. So I really, really hope they come back to the UK soon.
Did you have a particular highlight from that set? Anything that you'd heard on the albums, like myself, and thought, this really, really works live. Really like that.
Yes. I'm a huge fan of the License to Rock album, and in particular, Stop Messing My Heart Around.
Yeah.
Closing track on that went very well, but there are so many in this list that I've got here. So Lover's Block, that closes the latest one on the radar. And Where, that's the one that opens that album. It's a very brief, succinct little rocky number, and that just went down very well as a couple of new ones. So Bite Size Blues was a release last year. So I was really hoping that there might be a new album on the merchandise stand, but unfortunately not. But we were told that they are still working on it, and it will be out soon.
Well, good things come to those who wait, and I look forward to hearing that album as well. I do hope that they come to the UK, because I'd like to see them, and I think they certainly do have a fan base in the Quo community in this country, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. There's we've spoken about this before, about this really rich theme of sort of Quo-esque or Quo tribute bands from sort of Scandinavia, all that sort of part of the world, really. It's all good, solid stuff.
Definitely. So the next band was Status Quo.
Yes.
During their last tour that they're doing right now. I know what you're going to say. Jay filled in on drums, as Ian told me in a previous episode. But what did you make of the set?
Really good, and yeah, I listened to that interview as well, which was after this set was played, and totally appreciate where Ian's coming from. That it must be quite grueling doing all this, but the effort that they put in, and it really is really well put across to the audience. We, starting with Railroad, they went into Little Lady most of the time. We then got Who Asked You, which I think I'd heard them play before, but it was probably the first time I heard it live. They played the full version of Mystery Song, Rain, Pictures of Matchstick Men. That was a surprise from them. A version of 4,500 Times, which probably I thought was a bit of a blend of the NEC 82 to Milton Keynes 84 sort of arrangement, which really, really went down very well, as you can imagine. And then they finished with Softer Ride.
I mean, again, what a blend of sort of 70s, late 60s and 70s stuff.
Yes, yeah, very good. And yeah, I can't imagine they might have had that much time to rehearse with Jay on drums, but it was a really, really solid set. They're all brilliant musicians, and be interesting to watch what all the members end up doing.
Definitely. We'll certainly at the Quo-Cast be keeping an eye on that. So the next band on the bill was Baz Barry's Spare Parts?
Yes, yeah, it was. So I've seen this band then a few times now, and that they really do. I'd describe as the connoisseur Quo collection. Really, it's very sort of deep cuts, and done very, very well indeed. So they opened with Daughter. I can never pronounce it right. Umleitung, Night Ride, I Saw the Light, What to Do, In My Chair, which John Coghlan guested on. Then they went into April, Spring, Summer and Wednesdays, again with John Coghlan on drums. Technicolor Dreams, Little Miss Nothing, When My Mind Is Not Live, Spicks and Specks, Unspoken Words, Lonely Man, Something's Going On in My Head, and Joachim joined them for that. Oh Baby, Don't Waste My Time, Roll Over, Lay Down, and Roadhouse Blues. Baz Barry did that thing that he did at Minehead, where he dedicated songs to people. He's just such a genuine individual. Probably hate me saying that, but he really, really cares. But he's such a natural, sincere entertainer that when he does all this, he'll suddenly almost catch himself and say, "Oh, by the way, although I'm dedicating this song to so and so, if it has a rude lyric or says I want to kill your mum or something like that, that's not what I mean. It's it's just the fact it's a song that I like, it's groovy, I want to dedicate it to someone." Throughout the whole thing, he especially with John Coghlan, he just kept on reminiscing throughout the set of the time that he spent playing with him, and it was just very heartfelt, really, really enjoyable.
And how did it feel seeing John on those two songs?
You can just tell there's no one quite like him, particularly on April, Spring, Summer and Wednesdays, that when he plays it, to me, it doesn't sound like anyone else how they play it. It's a unique style, I think.
And did you see his Q&A from that weekend?
Yes, hosted by Jackie. Absolutely hilarious. They, as a double act, went down very well because John can be a bit dry or almost short. I mean, I'm not saying that he isn't engaging, but Jackie with his quips in between and little anecdotes, it was really fun and enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yes, and also with John's book, Spud, having come out soon, he was selling copies of that. I saw loads of people walking around with a copy of that.
One under each arm, like the old vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next band on the bill would have been Ian Hill doing Keep On Rockin' On for the first time. And again, he told me about his experience of doing that, which you can hear in a previous episode. What did you make of the debut airing of this long-awaited thing?
Well, I think I was one of those people asking for him to do this for years because it's a really enjoyable album that I think any Quo fan would like. And I'm very jealous that he, on it, sort of acts like a bit of a musical magpie, and he can just pick bits here and there that you can tell, yeah, that's his sort of take on this or that he stitched together. And also you can tell, oh, right, if Quo were doing that, that would be Rossi singing that, or that would be Parfit. And it didn't disappoint at all. I could tell he really, really enjoyed when we were getting into it. And then we were doing the spontaneous sort of Quo chant back at certain parts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really, really good. And I hope we see and hear more from him.
Do you think there was a track where the crowd reacted more than perhaps one of the others?
I think it was, just looking through the list, I think it was You Never Change. That was the one where there was a lot of chanting going on. And to start with in the set, there were a couple of sound issues. I know it was annoying Ian, and it really didn't sort of detrimentally affect the whole thing. It didn't detract from it for me at all. But by that point, it was like the audience was almost trying to, pick the mood up a bit, and they did. And it was really good.
How many do you think knew the material?
Well, Ian made a comment in your catch up with him that he didn't sell many copies, and that's probably because most people had one already. It wasn't a case of it was a bad performance and no one bought it, that's for sure. I just like the way that I went in expecting almost the album to be played back, but it wasn't. They'd given it some thought as to, right, so these 6 or 7 or 8 will be the main ones. But there was one track on there that he introduced as a new-ish song that he dusted off. He originally wrote it in about 1981. He said that's going to be on the upcoming album. That one's called Lonely No More. So there was definite thought put together in it. So how many times is one that on the album closes and it's a brilliant sort of mystery song, backwater build-up bit goes into 4,500 times sort of territory, and I thought that was going to close it, but he actually ended on a song called Precious that I know is a very sort of sincere one from Ian, and the whole audience just repeating the chorus was really, really good.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I've seen the video clips that have come out of those, and I have to say I was watching how many times, and there's like that almost like jingle type thing in the middle, isn't there? That sort of jig, and when that went in, I think it was at that moment I was like, I could feel what it was like to be there, and yeah, that track and that album has so many memories tied to it for me. So, yeah, I think the fact that even if I can watch a video hundreds of miles away and still get the feeling like I was there, even though I wasn't, that's, I think that's job done.
Yeah. I mean, most of it seemed to be filmed, or there was, at least for people at the back, you could see it on a video screen.
Yeah.
I really hope there is some more footage put out of it than just off people's iPhones, because
I hope so.
But it was the sound. Despite a couple of issues on Ian's set at the start, throughout the whole weekend was really spot on.
Well, I can't wait to hear what else comes from him, and if that video footage comes to light, which I'm sure it will at some point. So the next band was Predatur?
Yes, so Baz Barry back on. So same band as Spare Parts, but sort of swapped out with Jay there was Chaz, who came in on guitar. And again, over the years, I've seen Predatur in their different guises, and they're just such a solid band. So Jack, who I understand is Baz's son on drums, he's so solid. It's brilliant. And Steve Jones on bass, in my humble opinion, is one of the best bassists out there. It just seems that he's such a gifted bass player, and I'm very, very jealous as I can't get near that standard of playing. And then Baz, with his whole sort of stage presence, sounds a bit grand, but just the whole vibe was really good. So they started on Shy Fly, then did a Predator number, Over the Top, When My Girl, another Predator one. Actually, hang on, these are mainly Predator ones, but Shy Fly, obviously, from Quo. So Over the Top, When My Girl, In Your Garden, She Said, Wednesday Evening, which is a jam. They tackled Someone's Learning, Take a Walk. Then this was obscure. They did a cover of Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix. Obviously, the link with Matchstick Men there.
Yeah.
So everyone knows the story. Is It Really Me? Gotta Go Home. All the Best. In the Morning. Seen You Here and Need Your Love. So Seen You Here, Need Your Love, I know they tend to close the sets with those because they're really sort of upbeat numbers. But sort of the deep cuts, I don't think there is another band out there that does Is It Really Me and Gotta Go Home as well, because it's kind of an obscure sort of count in certain places, and it just is brilliant.
Well, a lot of their original tracks kind of have that same vibe, don't they? Just kind of keeping on a groove.
Yes, I'd probably, when you said that, I'd think In Your Garden straight off just has that sort of really good, as you say, vibe to it.
Yeah, along with Need Your Love, I think, as well, and Seen You Here. Yeah, I mean, this set list, I mean, I was obsessed with Predator as a teenager when I first discovered them. So I can imagine it was loud and in your face.
It was good. And Chaz plays quite a sort of different style of guitar to Jay. So in comparing with Spare Parts, it did sound different. It wasn't, more of the same. So yeah, a fair addition to have, on the lineup, really.
Excellent. Well, the headliner for that day was Status Quotes.
Yes, who I had seen at Minehead the time before last, and they released a DVD, so I knew to have high expectations because they really do put in the hours on, I'm sure, working out all the arrangements for the songs, and they really do the most broad spectrum in terms of a Quo set ever, I think. There are so many here that they are the deep cuts. I'm sure when they are not at events such as this and it's a more typical tribute band kind of thing, they would put in the hits, but they really took the time to put something together for us. So, I mean, they opened with Take Me Away, went into Can't Give You More, A Reason for Living, She Don't Fool Me, Claudie, Roll Overlay Down, Name of the Game, Don't Think It Matters, High Flyer, Over and Done, Accident Prone, Is There a Better Way, Mad About the Boy, Ring of Change, That's a Fact, Come Rock With Me, Rocking On, Who Asked You, Hold You Back, Night Ride, Down Down, Don't Waste My Time, and 4,500 Times, and then with an encore with Caroline that just about anyone who could grab hold of a guitar ended up on stage at that point. But yeah, it really was quite something. Just out of that set list, Take Me Away, I'd never heard live before, I don't think. Likewise with She Don't Fool Me, and Name of the Game. That's my boy's favourite Quo song. I rushed to get my camera phone at that point. Let's see what else. Come Rock With Me, Accident Prone as well. Just genius. Over and Done. I've tried to play that over the years. It's an unusual perfect tuning, and
Yes.
you close your eyes and you just feel as if, wow, this is it, as if I was standing in the recording studio with Quo knocking this out. It was just, electric.
And
Absolutely.
the attention to detail, like you say.
Yes. Yeah. Things where a lot of those tracks on the albums are a bit keyboard heavy, like Name of the Game, but you didn't miss those parts. It was very strange because you listen to it and you think this is so authentic, sorry. But it played so well, so polished, and comes over so well. I'm very, very jealous. Wish I
Goodness.
could play like that.
I mean, just looking down here, I know that Status Quotes are highly regarded, and they went down extremely well at Minehead a couple of times ago. And was this very similar to that set, or you say Take Me Away perhaps wasn't played then? Were there any other changes that kind of sprung to mind?
There are plenty on here that weren't there, that I can't remember. I would have to go and check, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, Take Me Away, I don't recall that being there, or She Don't Fool Me. Name of the Game definitely wasn't. Don't Think It Matters was, but again, that's such a deep cut that I haven't heard that often at all. Well, I was listening in the car on the way to work, but I haven't heard other bands tackle it. High Flyer, so that was the second outing that weekend for it, which I didn't object to because it's a great song to hear live. And it's one over the years, 4 years, it passed me by, because the way that the first CD editions came out, there was that back-to-back series.
Yeah.
And so the Whatever You Want album had a track missing, as with Whatever You Want. And so it was missing the Wild Ones off Just Supposing. So I'm getting all my albums mixed up here. And then Whatever You Want, it was missing High Flyer. So I didn't hear that until, probably 10 years of being quite into Quo. So it's one that sort of passed me by for years, but I absolutely adore now. It's a really, really good song.
Oh, lyrically, I think it's great. I'm constantly quoting lyrics from that.
Yeah.
It's one of their best from that period, I think. So when you look over the weekend, is it kind of everything blends together for you, or do you have any kind of highlights?
I see them as sort of distinct days still. I know over time it'll probably blend together, but it was just a combination of great bands, great set lists, that clearly the bands had taken the time over. Jay, with all his immense amount of organisation, that was just incredible. And I think something like £12,000 was raised for charity. So there was still, we haven't talked about, there was charity auctions, and there were collections here and there on sort of the bars and what have you. I should tell you this. This was one of Baz Barry's sort of dedications. This will stick with me. I thought it was an absolute classic. He said, so everyone's enjoying themselves. Everyone's like, yeah. And he said, right, we should thank the bar staff. And everyone's like, yeah. And he said, no. We really need to thank the bar staff. Just imagine, they've put up with 3 days of this. They might effing hate Quo. At which point they got one of the biggest cheers. So yeah, that was a good moment. But catching up with so many people as well who I've met in the Quo community over the years. And it was also announced that a couple of other Quo convention type things will be happening next year and the year after.
Yeah.
Which was welcome news, against that this was apparently the last one in Scotland. So, yeah, I was one happy punter.
Will you be going to either of these new ones that have come about?
If I get my hall pass from my family, then yes, I definitely will be.
Well, like I say, we shall endeavour to update on that. Thank you, Dan, for coming on and talking about your experience today.
You're welcome. I'm sure I shall think of other little things from the weekend after this. But yeah, as I say, it was great. And hats off to Jay for pulling it off. I'm very, very grateful.